What did the organizers of Swaay.Health Live 2025 think about the event? Did it live up to expectations? What stood out for them? Well, you're about to find out. I sat down with my fellow organizers, Brittany Quemby and Lynn, to chat about the event. Let's get to it.
Swaay.Health.
Brittany, welcome to the program.
Thanks.
Hi.
Good to be here.
Now, all three of us just recently got back from spending, a few days, a week or so, a week really, in Coronado Island for Swaay.Health Live 2025.
Hard blade.
I know. Such a great venue and such a great scene. First of all, have both of you recovered from Swaay.Health 2025?
I mean, it's interesting you say that. I've been reading all the write-ups about, from Swaay.Health Live and everyone summarizing their learnings and the experience. And I've never had post-event FOMO, where I wish I was back at the event. But as I read them, I was like feeling this like FOMO after the event that I wasn't still there because it was so awesome. So I don't know, is that part of the depression afterwards where I'm like, geez, I wish it was like another week, but you also have to get your day job done. So no, I've gotten some sleep, so that's good. But yeah, it was interesting reading it and just kind of being like, man, I still wish I was there.
Funny you say that, John, because I've talked to probably more than 8 people who feel the same way, but it's like almost like a withdrawal of, you wish you could go back. And it's, that come down after having such a high of being with such great people and your peers and your community. I likened it to, how you feel after you plan a wedding and you're like, okay, so now what do I do? And you want to go back to that time. So it's funny you say that because I've talked to probably, 8 people who have said the same thing. So I feel like that's a success though. If people are feeling that way.
Yeah, it was great.
I do think from all the comments and from what happened at the event, there seemed to be more shared experiences this year than ever before. I heard so many stories about people, having conversations by the fire pits, people just enjoying the walks on the beach, looking at the great scenery. And of course, the shared experience that the three of us had, along with a few of our guests, having, stood through the earthquake that happened in San Diego when we first arrived. Were there any other shared experiences that were of note for either of you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the party actually was just so perfectly well done. I loved that we had the upper portion where people could just network. The lower portion was for the fun people, the party people that, just wanted to dance. And, Brittany was great at getting the dance floor started. So that made for a lot of fun. So I think that was one of the coolest things, right? And it really accentuated what we started on the first day and then turned those initial kind of connections into relationships, because when you're talking around the fire overlooking the bay, right, or you're on the dance floor with someone, it just opens you up in different ways and creates a connection, and some memories that I think we won't forget, right? I remember someone told me, they're like, hey, I need this song if you want me on the dance floor. And I had never heard the song, and now my kids have said it twice this last week, so I guess maybe I'm just not in vogue. But then, Doug, the DJ, played it, right? And they sure enough, they came down and had some fun. But anyway, I think it's those little elements, right, where you're able to just relax and connect as humans that are really powerful.
I'm now
Brittany, what about
curious
you?
to see what that song is, but for me, I would agree. I think the party was super fun. I love a good dance floor, so that was super fun for me. But I agree with John. It was nice to be able to go up to the top and connect with people. A handful of us, or a group of us, also got to go out on a tiki boat tour that took us underneath the Coronado Bridge all the way to the Midway boat. And we got to kind of see everything along the San Diego kind of coastline or shoreline. It was super windy, but it was super fun because we were kind of all huddled in there together, and you could connect with people and really kind of get to know people when you're huddled in a small tiki boat together.
I was a little envious, although me and boats don't mix, but I was envious when I saw that boat take off, and it looked a lot of fun. The pictures from it were just phenomenal. So, glad you got a chance to do that. I really thought that the connecting that and the conversations that happened in the bar after the
Mm.
event in the after hours. I mean, there were whenever you walk by, there was at least 5, 10 people from our event there hanging out, just chatting, and I just had a chance to connect with so many people, just having a drink at the bar, which was a lot of fun. That's not a lot of times we don't have that proximity to kind of a meeting spot like that, and so it was a lot of fun to connect there for me.
Yeah, that's a great one. The other one for me was the unconferences, which, have always been a highlight of Swaay.Health. But I heard over and over again from people that like, I'd be like, how's it going? Are you enjoying it? And they're like, man, the unconferences, those are cool. You get to hear from real people about what's really happening, and you have a discussion, and they're like, those are just great. And you could tell, some friendships were made as they're commiserating over Salesforce and how to configure Salesforce to do attribution appropriately in the tool session. That broke out, and you could see some people like, go to this one, check this one, let's talk after, right? The unconferences just lend themselves to those types of connections.
Yeah, and I would echo that because I also got to host an unconference outside by the fire pits, and our friend Sarah Strom also got to do that. And everybody said that they love to be able to be outside, having these, open and vulnerable conversations with each other in, such a relaxed environment.
Well, actually, since you guys brought it up, was there any takeaway from the unconferences that you led and were part of that you want to highlight?
I mean, there's a lot of tools. That was the message from the tools one, and we're going to publish the list of what they talked about. But one that actually stood out to me was how many people are using kind of project management workflow tools, if you will, right? And so there was a whole plethora and long discussion about what are the best ones to kind of manage all the projects in your to-do list, if you will. It was all these to-do list type apps, and how do you coordinate across teams using them? So that one stood out for me as, how embedded that was, and how much people loved certain ones and hated certain ones, and actually hated all of them, because it's hard to put together a tool that works for everything, and that it takes some configuration, takes some ownership. But yeah, I didn't expect that one from the marketing one. I don't know why. I thought it would be a lot of AI tools, which there was some. Perplexity stood out to me. A lot of people loved that tool, but yeah, that one definitely stood out for me. The video one was interesting as well. I think we're all struggling with how to do it, but I think there was this idea of like, we need to do this, and we brought up the term raw authentic, which is it's raw enough that it's authentic, which I think is going to become even more important in the world of AI, where you can create anything. A little bit of rawness actually provides some authenticity, which I thought was a good message.
Brittany, what about you? Anything stand out from the sessions you were leading?
Yeah, I mean, from the PR strategy unconference, we talked a lot about earned media and paid media and how, do we have to do both? How does that work? And the big conversation is, yes, you do have to do both. And a lot of people are, doing more paid media. And we talked about the fact, does it seem, do you care if it's paid or has sponsored on it? How does that make you feel? And a lot of the folks in the conversation said it doesn't, make us feel one way or another. It's nice to know, but it's not going to change my judgment as long as you're giving us, good information and, useful insights from that particular, content piece. Another, thing from that session was, once you do a piece of media or you have a piece of media, Saul was saying, make sure you put it into your content flywheel. So whatever it is, whether it's a press release or, any type of media that you're doing, use it to your advantage and put it in that content wheel and make sure you're distributing it as much as you can and using it to your advantage.
I like that. Those are good ones. And for mine, I did one on privacy and personalization and the debate between that. It was very interesting because it's very challenging for health organizations to thread the needle between being creepy and being personalized. And I think that was a big theme of the discussion. But at the end, I think the biggest takeaway for me from that conversation was, if you're behind the firewall, meaning you've had the patient has logged into the portal, the expectation of personalization is very high, because you've logged in. They want the personalized emails and conversations to happen there. But when it's outside that portal, they're like, no, 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 don't be too revealing here, because that is creepy. I don't want the really super detailed text. So that I thought was very interesting, in terms of a takeaway from the unconference session that I was part of.
Wow.
Overall, was there any key takeaways that you want to highlight, Brittany, in terms of just overall nuggets or tidbits that you've either were there for them or have read since it's ended?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest and the thing that brings me the most joy is really how people felt so open to be vulnerable and, share their experiences with people. And, John really kind of set the tone, and that's what I see kind of all over, is that you set the tone, John, at the beginning, to be vulnerable and to be open. And I think what made me very happy is to see that people actually, really took to that and acted on that, and really loved the fact that it was a conference that you could go up to and actually talk to somebody, and you wouldn't get rejected, and there's always going to be a friendly conversation, and there's always somebody that you can talk to. So I think that's the community that, John, you had built and that we have kind of cultivated here, and I just loved hearing that after the fact, that that's really something that kind of took off.
Yeah, I heard someone say that it's the only conference where you can go up to anyone and start a conversation and they'll happily talk to you. And I was like, wow, that's quite the compliment for the community. And that's what I tell a lot of people. I said it's about the people there that are willing to share and collaborate. That's so important. The big takeaway for me is that it's a tough time right now in healthcare. Budgets are being cut at provider organizations, budgets are being cut at health IT companies. Marketing people are being cut. It's a challenging time. But in the customer session, Albert he described it well. He said, "Hey, just because I can't buy right now doesn't mean there's not an opportunity for you to set up for when I can buy." So he's like, how, stay in front of me, keep building the relationship, keep providing value to me so that then, a year from now, when the budget does become available or when that, thing that you offer does become a priority, that you're front and center and easy for me to get to because I've seen you and you've cultivated a relationship and provided value to me over time. He said, now that is an opportunity to build that relationship because they're still reading, they're still learning, they're seeing what they should be doing, but even though they don't have budget to do. And so I thought that was a really important message. And the interesting thing is we did to say, well, how do you do that? How do you stay in front of them without annoying them, right? And I don't know if anyone had a good answer to that other than be valuable. Because if you're valuable, then you can email me more often.
I think the takeaway for me, I mean, I kind of have to echo what Brittany said. A lot of the comments that I'm reading were really around the, I guess you can say, the shock, the surprise that they could have a conversation with a competitor, or that they saw competitors having a conversation at Swaay.Health Live. And they really appreciated how titles, longevity, seniority didn't matter at the conference. And so I think that, yeah, a lot of people took to heart, John, what you present at every Swaay.Health Live at the very beginning about the culture of the conference, and then how we talk about the fact that the titles are printed very, very small and the companies are printed very small on the badge on purpose. That all seemed to really make a big difference in the attendees' minds, which for the first timers anyway, that was a really pleasant surprise for them. So that was sort of the key emotional takeaway for me. And then the one for me that really was most talked about, at least a lot of people came up and talked to me about it, was the statements that were made in a number of sessions, including the press panel, John, where you were on, about the whole blurry line between paid and earned media. and how there isn't such a distinction anymore, or that there should be. Like it was very interesting to see where people fell. Some people were like, no, it should be, it's like church and state, right? They should be separate. They're worth, one is worth way more than the other. And then there were others who were just more like, yeah, they're about the same now. And one is definitely easier to get than the other. And in terms of the value, all the value, at least for them, came and how you promoted it. And whether it was paid or not, it for them, it served the purpose. So I thought that was a very interesting takeaway that seemed to be one of the most discussed tidbits that came from the conference.
Yeah, the other one's the changing SEO landscape, and this came up in a bunch of different sessions, especially around content and what content should you be creating. And, there's a new term, AI.EO, which is like a takeoff of SEO, right? AI optimization, engine optimization. So are you optimized for search engines? And what does that mean? What does that look like? Are you getting clicks? Are you not? Are you part of the conversation? So that was a big conversation as well. But I actually think the biggest conversation, I think you're wrong, the biggest thing talked about was Colin's purple suit. Like Colin's purple suit, that
Yes.
was the if Twitter was still alive, that would have been trending on Twitter for sure. And I loved
Oh my goodness.
also that Colin wore the purple suit the first day. I wore the t-shirt and jeans, and then the next day I had the t-shirt, or Colin had the t-shirt and jeans, and I was dressed up a bit more. It's like, hey, do your own style, be comfortable. That was good.
Totally.
Yeah,
Love the purple suit. It's so great.
that suit. I mean, I can only wear it there because it's so purple. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I did get a lot of compliments on it, so I thank you for everyone who did. But it was funny, like to see when you looked in the audience, a lot of people were wearing brand colors, like Sway brand colors. Like people on
Mm-hmm.
purpose were wearing the pinks and the purples and the bright hues. I mean, and only a few companies in the audience actually have those colors in their brands. So I don't know if it's become a fashion thing, but it's cool. I mean, it's fun to see that people are really kind of that much into the community that they're dressing up in the colors.
Yeah, I love it.
So, final question for both of you, and this is a tough one. If you were to pick a single word to describe your take on Sway Health Live 2025, what word would that be? And you can't use connection or community because that's an obvious one. So
Mm.
I have to take that one off the table. So John, I'll start with you. If you had to pick a word, what word would that be?
Yeah, that's tough. One word especially, but the word that comes to my mind when I think about the Sway Health community and the experience at Sway Health Live, to me, the word is special. Like it's just such a special community of people that truly do care about each other and trying to help each other be more successful at what we do. Charisse kicked it off just the right way, for talking from the patient perspective and the trickle down effect of what we do and how, you implementing that IT solution or you marketing your services to patients, impacts them down the line. And every decision you make is impacting the experience of that patient, whether they get the services they need or whether they dread every moment in the waiting room because it's such a terribly designed workflow or whatever it might be. That all goes down. So, it's just a special group of people that are willing to share and that really care about the mission of healthcare and trying to improve the lives of patients, not just the business of healthcare. So there you go. Special is mine.
Brittany, what word would you pick?
It's funny because the first word that came to my head was family, which is, an emotional, response to it. But I think if you go to Sway and you've been going for a number of years, or even if you're a first time, attendee, you really get the sense of openness and kind of like a big hug, that you would get from, a family vibe of a community that's really, as John said, there to help you, care for you, support you, lift you up, all of those things. So, like a family would. So I feel like that was the first word that came to my head. So I'll go with that.
Nice.
I like that. Family and special. Those are good ones.
What
What's
about you,
yours,
Colin?
Colin?
What's yours?
Yeah, I mean, you can't get
I
out
was
of this one.
I was trying
You
to
got to
sneak
come
away.
up with your word.
You beat me. I was gonna like, oh, and that ends the program, so that way I don't have to give mine.
No.
No,
We already
uh,
chose the best one. That's fine.
that's right. That's probably true. Actually, I'm gonna go a different road. My word, if I was when I reflect on Swaay.Health 2025, I think actually I would pick the word fire for a number of
Mm,
reasons. One, uh, I think first of all, the fire pits were sort of the epitomized the feelings that both of you mentioned, right? Just gathering together over a common something, right? In this case, a fire pit, just to stay warm. The fact that the party was so well remembered and so well thought of because of the existence of the fire pit and the two levels, and as John you put it. So to me, that's what I'll always remember about Swaay.Health Live. But then as I was thinking about it, there's sort of a few other reasons. Healthcare, you could argue, and healthcare marketing is on fire right now, right? There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of things happening. So kind of look at that. The winner of the marketing agency of the year is Fuoco, which
mm,
is, this fire literally translates into fire,
Yep.
right? So, and then also, yeah, just the whole, like, if you looked at the pictures, and we've shared some of those online, the pictures of the people sitting in front of the fires and the ones I took were some of the best because they got these big beautiful smiles in their faces and the way the lighting was. So anyway, for me, that's the word I would use to one word to describe Sway 2025.
Guess that's the
and your
music for
suit
me to
was
do.
fire too.
Oh,
Oh,
the fashion was
oh,
fire. That's true. We had some good people.
that is very true between, Ashley and Danny and others, and some of the photos are up there. I mean, they had some fantastic outfits, uh,
Hmm.
uh, some fantastic outfits.
Brittany can do a parody of this conference is on fire instead of this girl's on fire. Is that?
There you go.
Get my singing voice ready.
There you go. Well, karaoke's definitely getting back, and I think on that note, we did something at Swaay.Health Live 2025 that we've never done before, and that is announce next year's event already in terms of venue and time frame. And so I think we're all excited to be going back to Foxborough, where we had a great time at a prior Sway conference. And yeah, I'm excited to kind of bring the whole community back together again.
Yeah, people should check it out. We have the super early bird Sway 25 pricing up right
Hmm.
now. Yeah, but yeah, it's exciting. April 29th to May 1st, 2026 in Foxborough, just outside Boston. The biggest complaint we got about the conference was that there wasn't karaoke, which I think the view of, in Coronado made up for it. But anyways, people will be excited. We'll be bringing it back in 2026. So join us there.
So no walks on the beach, but definitely karaoke.
I hear Cape
Can't
Cod's
wait.
pretty nice though.
Well, all right. Well, hey, Brittany, John, thank you for joining me on the program today. And thanks for sharing your tidbits from Swaay.Health Live 2025.
Thanks, Colin.
Thanks.
I want to thank Brittany and John for joining me on camera. It was a lot of fun to look back at our Swaay.Health Live 2025 event in Coronado, California. I hope we can all carry the good vibes and energy that we got from the event with us for the rest of the year. And hey, if you enjoyed this conversation, please mash that like button and click subscribe. Also, head over to Swaay.Health, that's Sway with 2 A's, .health for more great content like this. I'm Colin Hung. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.